What's going on, everybody? I am here tonight with one of my favorite from Play to Win Season 2, the beloved Momma Church. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
We're going to do a recap of episode 3. And I asked you to come on because I think that your story and the way that you had to go through everything was super powerful. And I actually enjoyed watching you on TV as much as I did when you were doing it for real. And, you know, it's just it's so powerful to confront fear and to fight fear. And, to be a part of that journey with you was really a privilege for me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It was very enlightening for me, you know. I that I would have never imagined that they would really have had a snake in that box, you know. I mean, you remember I looked up and they said, "What would you do, if
Right.
I said, you wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that to me.
You wouldn't do that to me."
Well, they did.
Yeah, they did.
So when they asked you that and then they said, turn around and look in the box,
Yeah.
what was the first thing that went through your head when you saw that snake?
Okay. I mean, chills went up my spine. I
Right.
was like I was in shock. That thing was big. We
It
were not
was.
talking about a little snake, which it wouldn't matter what size. And but that was a big snake. And so when I looked down there, I really was just in shock initially. Um, I mean, I've just been always terrified. In my story, I said that, when I was a little girl and my mama and papa had an outhouse, and I went, and into the outhouse, and that snake started coming in from the top. I didn't even bother to pull up my pants. I just started running.
Oh
Now,
no.
now that would have been a sight to see.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. So they didn't play this piece, but kind of a behind the scenes. They basically told you if you didn't grab that snake, you was going home.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That was the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a challenge. It's like, okay,
So when they
th-
said that, when they said if you don't confront your fear and hold the snake, you're going home.
yeah.
What was it that got you to muster the courage to get it done?
I think probably it was more Jess than even Ray at that point just saying, you can do this. You can do it.
Right.
You just have to, you know, be determined and realize that this is a growth. This is an experience. This is a growth experience, and this is something that you can do. Just make up your mind. And I think that motivated me to do something I didn't think I could do.
Yeah.
I just didn't think I could do that, but I did, and I think it was the pep talk. She was a real motivator for me.
Now, was it as bad as you thought it was going to be?
Well, not okay. I'm going to tell you something. If that snake had done to me what it did to Jess, I would have passed out. I would have been gone. I mean, that would have been it. You know how that snake just almost got up in her. I mean, it was like ready to kiss her. I'd have been gone. I couldn't have done that. But it helped knowing that that head was away. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was more body than that head. And so when I was watching that Jess hold that snake and that face started coming, I thought, man, that would have been gone. I'd have been a goner.
Well, so I'm going to ask you a couple of different questions too. So, what was it that outside the snake? Yeah, Marilyn, I kissed the snake. I ain't got no issues with them. No issues with spiders. Um,
Yeah,
I,
that thing was crawling all over your head, and you
yeah,
was like,
one of my really good friends, Dee Marie, she said, "You are certifiably insane."
oh, well, there
And,
may be some truth to that.
no, there probably is a lot of truth to that. That don't fall far from the tree. So like,
Oh,
but somebody else on the live when it was airing live was like, "There's always got to be that one person that takes it way too far."
yes, that's true. I remember that. Yes, I
So,
remember
you
that.
know, so I don't want to talk about the vision part yet, but out of everything that took place, kind of behind the scenes on that episode, what stuck out the most to you through the process of day three? Um, and it could be anything, just kind of like when I do my episode recaps, I want to talk about things that didn't make it to the episode. Just some behind the scenes stuff.
Well, I remember that in that particular on that particular day, there was a lot of meltdowns from
Oh,
several people. And so that tore me up when I saw people just literally having meltdowns. It just broke my heart. But um, so that's one of the things that I remember, how tough it was emotionally, psychologically, how people were just breaking. It was just like, uh, okay, so I thought about this yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, that it was like the peeling. You know how when you peel an onion you're going to cry. I mean it. So my analogy was that every with every layer of that onion that's being peeled, there's just tears flowing. And so that's what we were going through, is that we were peeling back just so many raw emotions, challenging of telling our story, and some of the experiences that we had for me had not overcome. Some had was in the process of overcoming, but um, maybe not as raw as mine was. Mine was recent and raw. And
yeah,
so I was still overcoming, you
yeah,
know. So, so that was one of the things that I had thought about. It's really truly like peeling an onion, and with every layer, tears just flow. It gut wrenching things. And you never you never when I went into that show, I didn't know that that's what this was going to be about. Because see, my son was on season one, and we were prepping for sales. I could do sales. you
yeah,
know but this came from a totally different aspect. It was more of overcoming fears and challenges, and those things that hold you back that you don't realize. I didn't realize there was that much psychologically, things that would hold you back.
sure, sure, sure.
So, that was a lot of what I was going through emotionally for me myself, and watching other people going through that same thing. It was just really trying. It was a real trying experience.
Hmm. So you know, so episode three is already played. When we knew, a couple of people were going to get eliminated, we didn't know how many. So as it was playing out, by the time they cut the first one, then we knew there was at least one more. Who were the two that you felt at the beginning of day one that were going to get cut?
Who did I think would get cut?
Hmm.
Um, let's see. I think I I thought, after watching Marilyn's interview, I thought probably she would get cut. And honestly, I thought I might get cut. I thought I would be one of those. I was just thankful that I didn't. I made it one more day, and every day you're thinking, I'm gonna make it one more day. I'm gonna make it one more day, So I think I probably would have put myself in one of those positions.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So just to hear the various perspectives of people, because I can honestly say that outside of day one, I had no clue who was going to get cut. And I just looked at people differently, I guess, because I was not in it, like there were several times I was like, oof, man. On day one, I was happy I wasn't on the couch because I don't think I could have passed that test. Because I don't feel like at that point I had really relaxed enough to be that transparent. So I think if I had been on the couch on day one, I probably for sure would have gone home on day one. And then I don't think I would have done as well as you've got to go home. Because I had actually set myself up in my mindset prepping that I was going to do everything in my power to make sure anybody I could keep on the show, I would keep on the show. And I just made that internal decision that was going to be how I played it. And so when
How do you think that worked for you?
I don't know, like I can't really say.
Oh no, I think I think that worked really well for you.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, like so. Number one, I felt like everybody was genuine to me, right? So on day one, I wouldn't have picked Sean to be the mole, but I thought, dude, I don't want to be nowhere near that guy. So
Did I tell you? Did I tell you what my thought was about him? Okay, and I told Mary Kate too. This is so funny because when we got on the bus, he was late getting on the bus, and he was like, it was like he was hungover. When that first day when he was getting on the bus, and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late," and the bus driver was waiting, and he was just like, I'm just glad to be here. And I thought, he's hungover. He's getting on this bus and he is hungover. I thought, do you remember that?
Well, see, I was on a different day one than you. So I was day two.
Oh.
And he told us he got in a fight with Ray. And then I was like, this guy's an idiot, man. I was honestly, like, stay away from me. Like, yeah.
I thought he had an alcohol problem. Yeah. I thought he needed to be going to a meeting. That's what I thought. We need to find this guy a meeting. He is, he's been out drinking all night, and he's getting up and going to this, and he needs a meeting.
So like when I looked at people, I didn't look at like cutthroat Kelly. I didn't look at people to get rid of. Like,
that name is so appropriate.
She's great. I love her. It's such a funny
competitive spirit like nobody I've ever seen.
Yeah, but when I looked at people, I looked at and I really felt like I got to do this on day three, which was I knew that I was different. I knew that I had a very radically different background than everybody else. And I really felt like I got to lend to people throughout day three my strength in certain areas so that they could make it through the day. Because there was a lot of people breaking down. There was a lot of turmoil. There was a lot of uncertainty in each other and in their performances. And, I never really evaluated people from the perspective of this person's going home today.
I really didn't either. My heart was just breaking for so many that was truly having, some breakdowns. So I'm like you. The only difference, I think, probably, I because the mama in me wants to comfort everybody.
Yeah.
I feel like just everybody is my kid, and I've got to console and comfort. And so, I spent most of the day just hugging people, saying it's going to
Right.
be okay, take deep breaths. And, where I wasn't really as cool as you're, you, you were like a cool cucumber. It's like, hey, this is okay. I can understand that now, knowing more of your background. So as much as you've been through, it's been, you've had a lot of challenges, and
And
you're not as affected as some of the most of us, not some of us, but most of us.
so I got several disadvantages in that department. Number one, I'm male. So, like, I wasn't
Yeah,
getting wrapped up in my feels as much.
yeah,
Uh, but,
yeah,
that's one thing that I think the military really aided me with in the show was even when I was like Jessica could just get me into an emotional state far quicker than I was ever comfortable with. Like it
yeah.
really threw me off because I'm not usually that way. Uh,
Right.
Several people who know me really well were like,
How
"Bro,
did
was
you
you
do
like
that?
waterboarding you? Like what was going on?" And I was like, "I don't." She just got a gift, man. I just don't. I don't know any other way to say it. And but my training allowed me to come out of those interviews, go sit down on the couch and do our exit interview, and I would just go and get rid of it, and refocus on getting done what I needed to get done to stay on the show the other day. And at the end of the day, Amy had to make that hard choice between Marilyn and basically me. They didn't show it on the show, but it was really a decision between me and Marilyn. And you know, and there was a point actually in the show where I almost spoke up. They showed it, but they didn't show the effect of it because on that team, were you on our team? I don't remember.
No.
Okay, so I was actually the one who I think convinced the group to go to one product and go for the middle tiered price product. And they kind of got on Amy, and I felt guilty. I was like, man, I wanted to, but I never got a chance to kind of butt in and go, it's really not her fault. That's my fault. Like I'm the
Yeah.
I'm
They
the one that,
they they didn't allow you
yeah.
the ability to take responsibility for that.
It just never gave me a chance to really butt in. I don't think anybody knew. I shared
Yeah.
that with Marilyn because I felt really, and I shared it with Amy too. I felt guilty for a couple of days after all that went down. I'm like, man, I should have spoke up and I should have said something. Um,
Well, at the end of the day, she was the team leader, and it was ultimately her decision. So I guess that's what they were going with.
yeah. So it was just me. I'm happy she made it through. I wasn't happy that she had to make that choice because
Yeah.
her and Marilyn's like her best bud from the show. And,
Yeah.
you know, so now you had another breakthrough that was pretty amazing on the show. I want to talk about that a little bit because this was really, I think, something that you've been working on for a while, where you got into the vision session and you wanted to start an organization for grandparents helping grandbabies, and you've now done that. So tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. So it's been on my heart for a long time. And through this several years, I've helped several women. Um, and I'll just give you a few examples. Like, I'm in this group where there's thousands of grandparents raising grandchildren, and the struggle is real. And not only are they taking on that physical responsibility of raising a grandchild, but it's an emotional, you're having to deal with emotional issues,
Yeah.
And a lot of these babies are not, they have either been brought up in a drug addicted family, or they were born drug addicted. So, and that was my experience, because, the oldest grandson that I got, he's 12 now, but I got him when he was 2.5. And most of his life, he lived in a very drug infested environment. And so he was very isolated. He was very, just, he was withdrawn, isolated. He didn't have that maternal bonding that a child needs and should have. He just didn't have it.
Mhm.
Now, so the baby we got, now we're talking about, I was 55 years old, and I got an 8-day baby. He was
Wait a
8 days. Yeah.
how old are you?
Well, I'm 61.
No.
Yeah, yeah. So, starting all over at 55, at the time that are thinking retirement and living that retirement life,
Hmm.
I was busy raising a newborn. So
Right.
I had the 2.5-year old, and then I had the baby, and he was born drug addicted. And so he had to stay in the hospital for, um, let's see, 20, I think it was, no, for him, I think it was 17 days. And we brought him home. And so there you are, getting up at night, not sleeping. And drug babies are difficult because they're irritable. They don't eat, sleep, they don't sleep well. There's just a lot of challenges.
Sure.
But and so you've got that aspect, but you've also got the aspect of, and I shared this a little bit on the show that I think was brought out, but when you have to take your child's child away,
Yeah.
that's tough.
Yeah.
And you never expect to have to do that.
Yeah.
And so being in the group of grandparents and seeing the struggles that they have. And I remember one time somebody posted in this group, oh my goodness, they was, because I'm a nurse, um, somebody showed a bite on their grandson's leg. And I said, she didn't know what it was. She didn't know it was a bite. But when I saw it, I said, get him to the hospital immediately. That looks like a spider bite, probably a brown recluse. Get him to the hospital immediately. So she took him to the emergency room. He wound up, it was a brown recluse bite. He had to stay in the hospital like 3 days, was on antibiotics.
Mm.
This was a grandmother who was working a 9 to 5 job, that couldn't afford to take off work, but she had to, because he was dependent on her. And so you have the financial burden. Grandparents, they don't get supplemented. There's no, a foster parent, they're supplemented by the government, but a grandparent that takes on a grandchild is not. And
Wow.
so, yeah, yeah. So that I'm working on that too. That's in my vision. But so, um, I just said, she didn't have money to buy the medicine when the child got discharged from home. And while she was in the hospital, I said, I'm sending you some money, because I know that you work a 9 to 5. You've having to take off work, and you've got medicines to buy. She didn't have it.
Mm.
So I mean, I've done things like that all along, but I have really had a vision that I wanted to help more. I wanted to do more. They can't take vacations. They don't have the funds. um I will tell you, there are grandparents that are in their 80s that are taking on these children.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah, yeah, that's heartbreaking. Because financially we could do what we did, but there are so many that couldn't.
Right.
you know so my vision has been to, I wanted to, um do you want me to get into that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we have some land, almost 70 acres of land, and I want to turn it into a retreat center. I want to build a retreat center, and really, what I want to do is I want to go after some opioid money.
Oh,
And so I've already met with a state representative who is she knows people. I also, I have a few connections, but what I want to do is make it to where these grandparents can come with their grandchildren for a 3 or 4 day getaway where they don't have to worry about money. They don't have to worry. They can let their kids run and play. I want to have so many things there for them to do, but I want it to be a retreat center so that they another thing that these children feel is they feel isolated. They feel like they're the only ones in the situation that
mhm.
they're in, that their grandparents are having to raise them,
Right.
you know. And so in this group, we talk about, there's so many issues that come up. Okay, does a grandchild, if he's lived with you for, since he was born, and he's 7 and 8 years old, and he wants to have a mama and a daddy, because normal kids have a mama and a daddy. Is it okay for them to call you mama and daddy? Because that's what the other kids call their mamas and daddies.
Right. Man.
I mean, there's emotional issues and physical issues. And so, and then these grandparents who say, I've given up my retirement. I'm not able to live that life
Mm,
because I've made that sacrifice to raise these children. And so it's a real struggle. So that I've met with a state representative, and I shared last night that this was just a God thing. It just so happened when I met with the state representative that her mother was an opioid addict, and so she's very this has really pulled at her heartstrings, and she said, we need to start now. We don't need to wait. Let's start having picnics out there. Let's start having barbecues out there.
come
let's
on.
start let's start doing something. And so she said, I'll cook, I'll bring whatever I need to. I mean, this was like, we're going to do this.
That's
And so, really, it was really inspiring and motivating. And I just feel like it was a God thing that, she was so touched by this. So I'm not talking about a little small thing. I'm talking about a retreat center that could cost millions of dollars. But I want it to be to where, I want the grandparents and grandchildren to come play with each other, know that they're not alone, that there are many of us out there. And so then, I want it to be also for addicts that are in recovery, that they can have retreats there. So
Mhm.
it's going to be, I think, a multifaceted retreat center
Right.
that, you know different different everything of related to addiction. And the name of my nonprofit is Casualties of Addiction. And anybody that has a family member or a friend that's in addiction is a casualty. I'm a casualty of addiction because of my son's addiction.
Right. Right.
Linda, that's right. And just for those grandparents to have each other as a support is huge. It really is, because they feel like they're alone too.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, to actually, because we have our group chat and our group where we privately, as the contestants, can talk and bounce things off, and it's just been so incredible because we didn't get to see each other's vision, so we had no clue. But to watch that show and then have all of the background from the group chat of what's been going on in your life, and that you actually did start the nonprofit, you've actually been moving forward with what Ray helped you unpack, and how much of a difference it's made in your life. And I want to just bring up one more thing kind of as we close, because I thought of this after somebody mentioned it on the live debut of episode 3, which I know because you and I have talked, that you're a woman of faith, and on the show was actually during Lent, and you had the mark of Lent on your head. So just talk about that real quick, and just kind of share. Here you are on the middle of that show, and you got Ash Wednesday actually.
It
So
was Ash Wednesday, and I had gotten up really early. Thank goodness, my my daughter lives in Fort Myers. And so I was able to visit with her and spend some time with her while we were there. And so, the night before I said, okay, it's tomorrow's Ash Wednesday. What mass can I go to that I can, get my ashes? And so she was looking around, and she said, okay, Mom, I found one for you. You're going to have to get up early. And I said, okay, that's fine. That's really the only thing I could do, because I didn't know, the rest of the day we're sort of like unknown. We don't know what's going to happen, how long we're going to be there. It could be up until the night. So I knew I had to go early in the morning. And so, yeah, so I got up really early, I think like 5 o'clock, and ran down. I think there was like a 5:30 short mass. And so that I ran in and got that. But, I am a woman of faith. I do believe that God is um, he's in the little details of our life. We just don't know it. So many don't recognize it. And
yeah,
either God is in the no, God is in the yes, or the God is in not yet. you know so we just have to be patient and trust that his timing is perfect. It's hard, because uh, I get very anxious, and I lose my patience, and I want things quickly, and it just does they don't unfold like that. But I'm trying to learn to trust more.
yeah. But you're doing a pretty good job to me.
Thank
Between the
you.
show and just how you took that coaching that Ray gave you on the spot, and you manifested it. You started to do it.
Yeah,
So I'm excited. I know what's coming next week. And I'm excited to watch and see
it's
what.
going to be and we thought it was intense so far.
Yeah,
This
next week.
last episode is going to be the most intense.
Yeah, next week is I. So I think I don't know how they're going to play out the episodes, but Elizabeth, I don't know how they're going to play out the episodes, but definitely episode 4, and then the finale, whether they do one or do
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do it.
yeah. But definitely next week was really super intense, flowing into what happens the following week for the finale.
Yeah.
It's going to be, and next week's going to be really emotional. If you thought last night with that snake was emotional,
No, yeah, it's going to be. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever had such an emotional meltdown as I did in this next episode. It was tough.
yeah, it was, and you know, so they showed a clip, so I think I'm safe to share this. We had to do a public speaking thing, right? I won't give
Yeah.
away any details,
Yeah.
but it's so funny because we went from the snake to the number one fear in the world, which is public speaking. There are
Yes.
more people that would rather die than to speak in public. Yeah, I mean it's
Yes.
a level of fear. And Ray shared his story that he too was that way. That the product that you see now is not who he was. So
Yeah. That's pretty inspiring in and of itself.
yeah, it
His
really is.
story.
It is. So all right, closing thoughts. Anything from the show that you want to say, that you want to bring up? Anything that you want to get out and talk about
Well, um,
from episode 3?
okay, from episode 3. Well, I just think that as tough as it is to confront your fears, I do now believe that that's that's where the growth comes from. And since that episode, with the snake, um, I knew that, and then with this upcoming episode, I knew emotionally the challenges, and the trauma that I had been through, that what it did for me was it caused me to seek some counseling.
Okay.
And there's just I just believe now that we could all benefit from counseling. I think we could all benefit from coaching. In different areas of your life, there are support systems out there that we need to tap into.
Yeah.
And like, for business, for network marketing, for me, rate makers is, I don't care what type of business they focus on network marketing, but if you're in any kind of business, this is going to help you. So that's my business coach. But then, you've got, if you've had any kind of emotional trauma, and I think that everybody is broken in some area of their life. They're broken. And, uh, and there's help out there
Yeah.
if we will just seek it. So I guess the thing that I would like to, share is, it's important that you get the help that you need,
Absolutely.
and don't be arrogant to think you have all the answers. Don't be arrogant that you can get through this life alone. I don't think you can. And there's help available, and we just need to go out and tap into it.
Yep. It was a good final word. I can't even say anything. Good job. All right. Well, I just appreciate your time, and I knew that episode was going to focus heavily on you overcoming. So I wanted to have you on just to talk about it. And it doesn't matter if you're afraid of snakes or something else. If you confront it and deal with it, you can get over it.
Absolutely. And I sure do appreciate you, John. You've really helped me. I really do. You've just been inspiring, and you've helped me a lot.
I appreciate it. Yes, Linda, even I'm broken. I might be more broken than everybody else because I don't show it.
Nah.
All right. We love you. I can't wait to see what happens with this 70 acres and all the stuff you got going on.
Yeah.
Just keep killing it because you're one of my favorite.
Oh, thank you, John. I appreciate it.
All right. Just stick on for another couple of seconds.
Okay.